You know that feeling when an idea is so crazy, so completely out of sync with how the world works, that everyone tells you to give it up? You're sitting there, holding this fragile, impossible thing, and the smartest people you know just pat you on the head and say, "That's cute, but that's not how it's done." Imagine if you listened to them. Imagine if you just let it go. Well, grab a coffee, get comfortable, because today we are going back to a dusty Stanford garage, not literally, but metaphorically, to chase that feeling. We're going to unravel the story of two guys who didn't listen. Two guys who took an impossibly crazy idea and built something that now lives in your pocket, your car, and your brain. We're talking about the story of Larry Page and Sergey Brin and the birth of Google. But here's the thing. This isn't just a tech story. This is a finance story. A story about what happens when you refuse to play the game by the rules everyone else accepts. And the lessons in it, they might just change how you think about your own money. So, let's start in the mid-1990s. The internet is this chaotic, exploding library where no one has filed the books. You're trying to find a specific piece of information and you're buried under a pile of useless noise. You type in car and you get back a million results, mostly just the word car repeated over and over again. It's frustrating, right? It was for everyone. But for Larry Page, it wasn't just frustrating, it was intellectually offensive. He's at Stanford, a computer science grad student, and he's got this wild, almost philosophical idea. He starts thinking about the structure of academic citations. You know, in a research paper, when an author cites another paper, it's like a vote of confidence. The more citations a paper has, the more important it probably is. And Larry has this lightning bolt moment. What if we could do that for the entire web? What if a link from one website to another wasn't just a line of code, but a vote? What if we could rank the importance of a web page not by how many times it said a keyword, but by how many other pages, especially important pages, were voting for it by linking to it? He teams up with Sergey Brin, this brilliant, gregarious fellow student who thinks in 3 dimensions. Sergey loves the problem. It's big, it's messy, it's never been done. And together, in their dorm rooms, they start building this massive, clunky machine out of borrowed, cheap computers. Imagine it. The room is a fire hazard of cables. The heat is insane. This is the birth of what would become Google. They call it back rub at first. Back rub. Can you imagine? Hey, just let me back rub that for you. It doesn't have the same ring, does it? But here's where the story takes its first sharp turn. They have the algorithm, they have the prototype, and they know they have something special. It's time to take this out of the dorm room and into the world. They try to sell it. This is so important to sit with for a second. These two guys, with an idea that will literally organize the world's information, go to the established players. They go to Yahoo, they go to Excite, which was the king of search at the time. They say, "We have this technology that can give you way, way better results." And the feedback they get? It's a masterclass in missing the point. One executive at a major portal, I think it was Excite, listens to their pitch. He looks at their demo, and he says, "This is great, but how are we going to make money from this? The search results are so good, people would just find what they're looking for and leave our site immediately." Think about that. His business model depended on keeping people lost so they'd stay on the page longer and see more ads. His entire worldview was built on the assumption that the user was a captive audience. Larry and Sergey's idea was to set them free. They tried to sell the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel, for less than $1 million. I've heard the number was around $750,000. And the companies say no. A hard no. So here's the lesson that hits you right in the gut. The first financial principle from this story isn't about compound interest or asset allocation. It's about conviction. It's about the ability to look at the consensus view of smart, successful people, the people running the companies, the ones with the corner offices, and calmly conclude that they are wrong. Most of us would have crumbled. We would have thought, well, I guess my idea isn't that good. Back to the drawing board. Larry and Sergey didn't. They looked at the rejection and saw a failure of imagination, not a failure of their idea. They had to believe in the value of their own vision, even when the market was telling them it was worth zero. That's a mindset, and it's a prerequisite for any kind of outlier success. So, rejected, they're forced to become entrepreneurs. They max out their credit cards to buy more hard drives and server parts. Sergey jokes that their office was a sublet in a friend's garage, which we paid for in pizza. They're sleeping on floors, living on ramen, fueled by caffeine and the sheer audacity of what they're building. And what are they building? They're building for the user. They launched Google.com. The homepage is laughably simple, just a logo, a box, and 2 buttons. While Yahoo was a portal trying to be your email, your news, your weather, your everything, Google was just a clean, fast path to exactly what you asked for. It was quiet, it was humble, and it was a declaration of war on the old way of thinking. Andy Bechtolsheim, one of the founders of Sun Microsystems, sees a demo one morning in a colleague's driveway. He's so impressed on the spot that he writes them a check for $100,000. The only problem? The check was made out to Google Inc., and the company didn't officially exist yet. For 2 weeks, that check sat in Larry's desk drawer, unable to be cashed while they scrambled to incorporate. Imagine that piece of paper sitting there, $100,000 just waiting. That's pressure. But the real financial lesson, the one that builds empires, comes with how they decided to make money. Everyone else was doing banner ads, pop-ups, ugly, intrusive things that cluttered the page and annoyed the user. Larry and Sergey hated them. They felt it compromised the purity of their mission. They could have just followed the money. Everyone else was. It would have been easy. But they paused, they reflected, and they asked a different question. Not how do we make the most money right now, but how do we make money in a way that is consistent with our value to the user? The answer was AdWords, small text-based ads that were clearly marked as sponsored. Ads that were relevant to your search, not just random noise. If you search for vintage guitars, you see an ad from a vintage guitar shop. It wasn't an interruption, it was, in theory, more information. They aligned their revenue model with the user experience. They found a way to win with their customer, not at their expense. This is a risk decision that is pure gold. So often, we chase the quick buck. We take the gig that pays well but drains us. We invest in the hot tip that we don't understand. Larry and Sergey built a multi-billion-dollar machine by refusing to do that. As the money starts to flow in, the company goes public in 2004. It's one of the most anticipated IPOs in history. And again, they break the mold. In their famous founder's letter to potential shareholders, they write something you almost never hear in finance. They say, "Google is not a conventional company. We do not intend to become one." They talk about a long-term view. They talk about making risky investments for the future, even if it hurts short-term earnings. They are literally warning investors, if you're looking for quick, smooth quarterly profits, don't buy our stock. We are playing a different game. That is a behavior lesson for all of us. It's about defining your own time horizon. The market screams at you to think in quarters. Your phone screams at you to think in seconds. But real wealth, real, lasting, generational wealth is built in decades. Think about your own life. Are you making decisions based on what will feel good tonight or based on where you want to be 10 years from now? Larry and Sergey structured their entire company around the second question. The turning point in their own journey wasn't just the IPO, it was the quiet, continuous grind of maintaining that conviction, of buying companies that seemed weird, like a tiny startup called YouTube or a little Android project, because they fit a long-term puzzle, not because they made sense on next month's spreadsheet. And here's a practical action for you right now. Think about your biggest monthly expense. Is it your rent, your car payment, subscriptions? Ask yourself the Google question. Is this aligned with my long-term value? Does this expense bring me closer to my goal, or is it just a banner ad cluttering up the homepage of my life? Maybe that means downsizing a car to invest the difference. Maybe it means cutting a streaming service you never watch and putting that money into a Roth IRA. It's about auditing your life for alignment. Larry and Sergey stepped down from their leadership roles in 2019. They remain on the board, guiding from above. Their journey wasn't just about creating a search engine. It was about proving that a principle-centered approach, obsessing over the user, taking the long view, ignoring the short-term noise, isn't just philosophically satisfying. It is the most powerful financial engine ever built. So what's the takeaway for you, sitting there in your living room? It's this: the next time you feel the pressure to do things the way they've always been done, the next time some smart, successful person tells you your idea is too crazy or your goal is too ambitious, the next time you're tempted to take the quick cash at the expense of your own values, remember Larry and Sergey, sleeping on the floor in a dorm room, holding a check they couldn't cash, quietly, stubbornly betting on the user, betting on the long term, and betting on themselves. The question isn't whether you have the next Google in your pocket. The question is, do you have the conviction to protect the value of your own vision, even when the whole world tells you it's worthless? Thanks for being here. I'm Chase. I'll talk to you next time.